Hello, good morning everybody. For benefit of doubt, the Geordie accent will give it away. Very near to the Scottish border. I'm here this morning to talk to you about benefits of international links. Can they be measured? What sort of evidence can we have from international links work? And what can we use that evidence for? A lot of people seem to... Whoops. Yeah, sorry, learning curve. A lot of people seem to think this is what we do when we go to do international work. In fact, a lot of operational managers who have to give staff time to go away to do this work have that impression. Of course, we know that this is the reality. It's a much more challenging environment. We learn a lot from it. We can bring a lot of the lessons back to the NHS. But what are the barriers within the NHS for international links work? Now, if we're talking about bringing benefits back, we really need to make sure that the message filters through to operational level within the NHS that this is really good for professional development. You're actually bringing skills back from international work you can use in your everyday working life, and some extras and many more beyond that. Personally, within running the link at Northumbria, I found that there is still a public perception that why should somebody go away to do this work when my hip operation has just been cancelled? And I think that there's a little bit of way to go with the public as well to let them understand that the cost of links is absolutely tiny, but the benefits are huge. And maybe we also need to think about how we can actually prove to NHS employers, go back into our trusts and say to them, this is what we can do. Now, the NHS, the positive messages are really, really excellent because the NHS is a brand that everyone knows right across the world. And when our people travel overseas, they are actually health ambassadors. They represent the trust. I know many are volunteers who go without the backing of a trust, but you still represent your country, your trust, your profession. So it's a good flagship going out there to promote what the NHS can do. And we've heard from the speakers earlier that when NHS links work is well planned and fits in with other NGOs that are working in the area, fits in with local development plans, health development plans for a country, you can have really major impact because although you're beginning in a small nucleus, as you know, from year on year, it grows, get more support, and it can go from strength to strength. So I think that investment in health links brings positive benefits, not only to the international partner, but also to the NHS Trust back in the UK. A couple of years ago, I undertook some research looking at skills and knowledge transfer from work that is done overseas. The article was recently published in the Health Service Journal, the online version, and that mapped out basically the links, direct links between all of the key KSF, or Knowledge and Skills Framework, criteria, and the learning that was gained from overseas. So we've found, and it's been proven, that there are distinct links between the two, and that particular resource should be available online shortly. But everything has its problems, and I think, again, some of the problems were alluded to earlier this morning. We know that the NHS is going through a period of real major change now. So on one side, there's cost cutting. So how do they actually find still the wherewithal to support an international link? And a lot of links aren't supported necessarily by the trust financially, but in terms of study leave or special leave to enable them to travel and to do this work. So what happens if there's lots of cost cutting? How do you balance the operational demands, as you're getting leaner and meaner, as they say, in delivering your operational objectives? How can you balance that as well? When somebody comes to you and said, can I have some study leave because I'd like to go and follow up on our project overseas? The operational manager's got a hard decision to make. without not wanting to be uncooperative, but the service demands always have to come first within the NHS. And again, the public involvement, I keep coming back to the public perception of links, but if in the press they are looking for different ways of saying, well, why should the NHS do this? The positive messages that go out from successful links reinforce the fact that we should stay involved. But for the individual, on the other side, there are also some potential problems. I found that some people can go out there and they thrive on adversity, but some people can actually have culture shock. Now, culture shock is not a good thing. And when you see somebody who is struggling to cope with totally new and alien surroundings, different ways of working and everything, it means their internal barometer is being put out of sync. But for the vast majority of people, they just thrive on the challenges and they really enjoy what they want to do. The other thing is, can expectations be too high? And if you think that within a 2, 4, 6 week period you can actually move the world, and when you actually travel overseas you find actually that isn't going to work, were your expectations too high and therefore inevitably going to lead to disappointment? And we don't want that to happen, because we want everyone to come back absolutely charged up with what they've achieved. So not everyone is suitable for this particular type of challenge. And some people, if they act, for instance, inappropriately, can actually damage a link. So there's lots of things you've got to look at. But I think that the biggest challenge is in working within a less resourced environment and having to adapt your practice. Some people find that really difficult to do. I'm going to quickly go through some benefits to the NHS in terms of KSF. One of them is relationships. I think most people who do international work come back and they have a greater ability to relate to everyone, from the porters who are assisting at a certain level, right through to the chief executive. They can approach anyone, feel comfortable to discuss things with anyone. They work across disciplines. They can consult with somebody in ultrasound, somebody in surgery in the same way, instead of the silo working that you tend to get in the NHS. But I think that mostly you are nurturing relationships. You learn how to build relationships, and therefore that helps you with influencing skills, etc. in the future. Other major benefits to the NHS are change management. Coming back here, you think, oh, I can change that. I can look at things a little bit differently. Everyone's aware of the resources. No, don't use that, don't buy that. Use the money more conservatively. People look at how money is used, and that's a real benefit to the NHS. How many times do you hear somebody say, oh, I'm thinking outside the box? You know, we're doing, as was discussed earlier again by the panel this morning, lots of different ideas coming from different viewpoints. Wow, yes, we can do it this way. And global health knowledge is a given, of course, all of the different aspects that you learn. But the important thing is we're supposed to nurture NHS talent. And I think that this is a really good conduit to do that. Now I'm going to whiz through a few slides which show particular case studies, all from slightly different aspects, but all of them, I think, have benefit back to the NHS.